Sales Rep Radio.
Hi, everybody. This is Dan Walker, and this is Sales Rep Radio, a presentation of timeless sales tips and best practices from some of the world's most talented sales consultants. It's news from your world, and it starts right now.
Hot tips, Sales Rep Radio.
In the noble profession of sales, we all know where the finish line is, the close. That's the day and time we're rewarded for all the effort and hours we put into the sales cycle. It's also the phase where some of us hit a big industrial-sized speed bump, and the deal begins to crumble at our feet. Well, lucky for us, we've engaged with longtime international sales consultant and prolific author Tim Connor. He's here to help us out. Tim, thanks for carving out some time for us.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you having me.
Tim, it seems it happens so often. It gives me a sour stomach. After everything we've done to get so close to closing the deal, getting the sale, then it gets stalled. We're in a holding pattern, or worse yet, the whole thing falls apart.
Well, the problem is that that's not really where the close starts. There are a couple of basic premises that I think are really, really important. The first one is that the close is a natural conclusion to everything else that you've done effectively in the sales process. You don't turn a poor prospect into a customer with a closing technique, and you don't turn a poor prospect into a customer with a great presentation. I think it's a natural reaction to everything else you've learned in terms of prospecting and the presentation. The other thing is that if two people really want to do business together, they're not going to let the details get in the way. So this is not the time for negotiation. This is not the time for handling objections. So I think when people understand that the closing is just a part of the sales process, it's not the end of the process, it's really the beginning of the relationship, then, and I think, and only then, can they be better closers, rather than trying to just develop some sort of tricky techniques.
Wait a second here. That doesn't really jive with what we've been taught over the years.
Yeah, well, I've been selling for over 40 years, and I failed in the insurance business, I don't know, probably 30, 35 years ago, because I couldn't close sales, and the reason was because I was taught that closing was a certain way to do things, and what I learned was that I did that, but it didn't work, so I had to go back and sort of reinvent the wheel. I can't speak to the rest of the marketplace in terms of what they believe. I can tell you that, unfortunately, and having been in the sales training business for 30 years, I can tell you that there's a lot of people today who are still teaching sales as a bunch of old cliches and truths that never really were true, but they just never bothered to investigate anything else. So they just keep passing the same crap on to everybody else, and it doesn't really work. And this is why we've got closing and sales problems today, and turnover rates in sales, and people getting lower margins, and we get lack of customer loyalty. Dan, you know the issue. I mean, stuff goes on and on and on.
So you maintain that the classic old way of thinking about closing maybe needs a bit of a tune-up.
I believe so. That's the way I've been selling for the better part of my adult life. I think the first thing is that we have to look at the difference between what I call question-based selling, or customer-focused selling, or product-focused selling, or organizational-focused selling. Organizational-focused selling really is when you're focused on selling what the organization wants you to sell because they've got them in inventory, or they need to get rid of them, or that's new, or whatever. So go out there and sell more of those things. And there's the product-focused selling, which is really, really about selling the features, and so closing on a particular feature and how that will benefit you. Customer-based selling really is about finding out what people want, need, or concerned about, and then just giving them that. I think people really want to buy things, but they don't want to be sold things. I think the problem with closing today is people actually want to buy things and own things, but they really just do not want to have to make the decision to own those things or buy those things. But traditional sales training says, so you got to ask for the order. Well, I don't think that's necessary. I think if you're dealing with someone who wants what you have and you've positioned it in a way that they see the benefits, they will buy it. The problem is they don't want to go through the pain and trauma of actually having to make the buying decision. So effective closing really alleviates that buying trauma or pain for the customer, but ultimately gets the sale made. I mean, when you really think about it, when people don't sell, think about it for just a minute, Dan. I spend 20 or 30 minutes giving you a sales presentation, telling you how great my product is, what it'll do for you and solve your problems. You give me a little sales resistance and I cave in. I mean, what's the prospect thinking? You know, obviously, if you believe this stuff, you try a little harder. So maybe I shouldn't believe you if you don't believe you either. You're just out there trying to push products or services. I think there are some perspectives that need to change, yes.
The art of selling, and it is an art, has evolved, hasn't it?
Well, yeah. Selling has been perceived over the years as this is what I can do if I can't ever do anything else in my life. If I can't make it in medicine or teaching or nursing, you know, I can always go sell. And, those people typically, although those are wonderful and laudable careers, those people typically, there's no guarantee. There's a different set of skill sets in selling, just like there is every other profession. And they are skill sets. I mean, the person who's making 6- and 7-figure incomes in sales are really good at what they do. They're not frauds and they're not hypesters. They're really good at what they do, just like a successful person in any other profession is good at what they do. It takes a lot of skill, it takes a lot of knowledge, and it takes a lot of understanding of products, services, people's buying motives, and that comes with time, that comes with research, that comes with education. A lot of people today don't look at the profession that way.
And we all should. So when it comes to our great reward and being effective when it's time to close, you've got some thoughts.
I think there's a couple things. First of all, I would focus on the front part of the sales process in terms of gathering information. And you really don't get involved in the close of the sale until you really know you have all the information you need to give the presentation. The problem is that prospects, if they get you to the price quickly, what they really are is a poor prospect because they're trying to end the process. Well, that's not really a good prospector. So I think the first thing is you've got to make sure you're in the presence of a good prospect. You're not just out there delivering presentations to satisfy the demands or expectations of management that you saw 10 people today. I mean, who's kidding who here? The second thing I think you have to have is you have to have a device of some kind that helps you take everything you've done up to a close and turn it into a closed sale. And I developed a closing technique probably 35 years ago. It's the only one I've ever used. It's the only one I ever teach. It's really quite simple. It goes under the premise that most people don't like to make decisions, but they want to get decisions made. Traditional closing has always said, do you want it in green or red? Do you want to start on the 15th or the 30th? I mean, we look at alternative choice. When we look at all the traditional closing techniques in sales, every one of them asks the prospect to make a decision. When the patient goes in to see the dentist, has a toothache, basically what the dentist does is does an x-ray, a patient history, and exam, and then does not ask the patient, what do you want me to do about your tooth? The dentist is in the best position to make the best decision for the patient. They don't turn the buying decision over to the patient. The same is true in sales. The best person to make the best decision for the prospect is the salesperson, not the prospect. Now, there have to be two conditions in place in order to make that happen. The first one is the dentist has to know what your problem is. They have to have done the x-rays and done the exam. And they have to have product knowledge. They have to know that what they recommend will solve your problem. If the salesperson has product knowledge, they know what they recommend will answer your need or solve your problem, and they know what your problem is, they're in the best position to make the best decision for the prospect. So this is my closing technique. It's so simple. I've been teaching it to audiences all around the world. Everybody loves it. They use it. The words are, let's blank, is that okay? In other words, make the buying decision for the prospect, then ask them to agree with the decision you have made. Now, the reason this works is very simple, three basic fundamentals. One, it's conversational. I will guarantee that in the next week you will say to someone, Dan, or someone will say to you, let's grab lunch today, okay? Or let's go to a movie tonight, okay? See, what they did was they made the decision for you. You didn't perceive it as a closing technique. It was just a conversational approach to life. Number two, it's easy to remember. And number three, it gets the decision made, but the prospect doesn't have to make it. That's it, kiddo.
Is it really that easy, Tim?
That's it. I have seen salespeople. One of my clients sells $15 million jets, and they're selling jets that way. Let's go ahead and set up a demonstration right. Is that okay? I don't care if it's a perceived commodity, multi-level. It can be used at various stages in the prospect. Let's get together. For example, traditional closing. Would you like to see me on Thursday, or would Friday be better? You just ask the prospect to make a decision. Let's get together on Thursday. Is that okay? I say, I don't care whether it's Thursday or Friday. That's not the issue. The issue is getting the decision made. It doesn't matter whether it's Thursday or Friday. I don't care whether you start on the 15th or the 30th, but I want you to start. So the whole idea is it make the decision for them, and all you have to do is ask them to agree with the decision you made. I have to say this as a disclaimer, because maybe there's some people in your audience. There's one industry that you cannot use this closing technique because it's illegal, and that is in the brokerage industry. Whenever you're dealing with people's money or finances, you can't say, let's go ahead and make this investment. Is that okay? But with every other product, every other service, it is legal, ethical, moral, and professional.
Well, there it is, folks. Let's blank. Is that okay? Now, that's something we can use almost every step in the sales cycle.
Dan, I'm telling you, I literally, Learjet, I revolutionized their sales process with one sentence, and the VP of sales country says, you know what? He said, that one sentence just paid for our entire 2 days with you having you here. And I said, well, all I can tell you is it works. And I ask actual people at the end of my programs to, when I actually cover this particular topic, as soon as you try it and it works, just send me an email. It works. And I get, 50 to 100 emails a day. It works. Because it's so simple, because most salespeople do not like the close any more than the prospect does. And so what this does is sort of makes it easier for both the salesperson and the prospect.
Well, Tim Connor, it was well worth the cost of admission. Come back and see us again soon, will you? Here on Sales Rep Radio.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you having me.
That's going to do it for now, folks. Sales Rep Radio is a production of the Marcom Store, your source for audio and video training and communications, comprehensive e-learning, and of course, custom corporate podcasts just like this one. Let's be sure to subscribe, like, and share this podcast. That okay? You see what I did there? This is Dan Walker. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again next time for another edition of Sales Rep Radio.